You look good.
Well, I feel good.
Legendary linebacker Dave Robinson says he has a new lease on life. You seem a little more energetic.
I think I am.
A far cry from the worries he expressed less than a year ago.
I don't want to get to that point where I don't recognize my friends and don't know where I am.
This past winter, Robinson told me he suffered from murky memory, sleeplessness, and agitation, blaming it all on countless concussions he received playing football, including the years he helped lead the Green Bay Packers to victory in Super Bowls I and II. How many concussions do you think you had?
Oh, more than you have fingers and toes.
Now, for the first time in decades, Robinson says his mind is clearing. You feel better.
Yes.
More memory coming
Yes.
back. He credits his recovery to treatments he received in this chamber. The treatment is called hyperbaric oxygen therapy, or HBOT. It was originally designed to treat divers with the bends, which is why each session is called a dive.
I did 40 dives.
During these dives, the chamber pressurizes, pushing 100% oxygen into the lungs, which carry that pure oxygen to damaged sections of the brain. MRI images reveal sections of a brain filled with blue, dormant from injuries, lighting up in green with new activity after HBOT. Dozens of studies show HBOT helps heal wounded brains. That means HBOT could be a game changer for players suffering from chronic traumatic encephalopathy, or CTE, a degenerative brain condition caused by repeated blows to the head. In 2017, this study examined the brains of 111 former NFL players. 110 of them had CTE. Yet the FDA, which approves HBOT for treating 14 conditions, does not approve it as a treatment for brain injuries, saying there aren't enough rigorous studies to prove it works. Who worries about the long-lasting effects of all those concussions that you've received, even if it's just one? Are you worried?
Yeah.
Some of the greats of the game, including Robinson, are on the board of the Pro Football Retired Players Association. Led by Executive Director Bob Schmidt, the board voted to try HBOT themselves.
We're going to use our retired players to really bring this issue forward.
And not surprisingly, leading the way is 79-year-old Dave Robinson, a giant on the field who's already enshrined at the Pro Football Hall of Fame. Now, Robinson says he has one more run at greatness to be living proof that HBOT works. Is HBOT going to be part of your legacy now, too?
I hope it is. I hope when I'm 100, I still have my memory, still have my faculties, can still move around, and I can tell people I owe it all to HBOT.
I'm Dwayne Pullman for Spotlight on America. On the streets of the tri-state, weapons rule. From handguns to high-powered assault rifles.
The officers of the Cincinnati Police Department come across a multitude of types of guns.
Police say they're facing ever-increasing firepower.
The assault weapon type guns to the small caliber, single-shot handguns.
But when criminals are caught, their weapons, that's an AK-47, are confiscated.
It's a semi-auto.
But what happens to those weapons after they're seized? Well, the answer to that depends on which side of the river you're on. That's right. Here in Ohio, most of the guns confiscated from criminals are destroyed. But over here in Kentucky, every gun that's seized must by law be sold. That includes guns used in violent crimes, even murder weapons. Welcome to the confiscated weapons sale at the Kentucky State Police Supply Branch, where the bidding is fast and furious.
Number 38, $250, number 38.
Only gun dealers can bid on these confiscated weapons and ammunition. Some dealers have traveled a long way. Where are you from?
Virginia.
Tennessee.
Okay. Many others live closer to home.
Ripley, Ohio. Nicholasville.
When it was over,
How was it today?
It was fun.
the dealers hauled out hundreds of guns,
Little everything.
Did you get anything good?
nothing,
A few things.
including assault rifles. What is this thing?
SKS.
Some had to make more than one trip to get all the guns they bought here. Still a demand for them.
Yes, a big demand.
1975 now, 3 minutes.
To meet that demand, Kentucky passed this law 20 years ago, which mandates all confiscated firearms shall be sold at public auction to federally licensed firearms dealers, with all money going to the state and local police. Last year, confiscated gun auctions in Kentucky brought in more than $628,000. 20% went to the state police. 80% was distributed, as required by law, as grants from Homeland Security to 5 police departments to buy bulletproof vests, guns, and ammunition for officers. We're still waiting on a full list of what was purchased and which departments benefited. Are you surprised?
I am a little bit surprised.
Cincinnati Police Lieutenant Colonel Terry Thiegy is surprised by Kentucky's law because Ohio law requires a court to approve selling confiscated firearms. Here in Cincinnati, a city ordinance simply says all weapons need to be destroyed for public safety reasons. So you have a municipal code, you have a law, you have a city law that says you must destroy.
Correct.
Last year, CPD destroyed 1,257 firearms. In 2016, CPD destroyed 1,142 guns. All of them melted down at a metal company that's not in Ohio. Would it be Kentucky?
It might be. It might be across the river.
And that is ironic.
That is ironic.
While police don't make policy, CPD is pleased to get rid of the guns.
Just to alleviate that question of whose hands it could possibly get into, the better alternative is to destroy it.
Back across the river in Newport, Police Chief Tom Collins abides by, but does not support Kentucky's mandate to sell seized guns.
I'm not happy about it, and I think any law enforcement officer feels the same way. Once we get a weapon off the street, I don't really want to have to deal with that weapon again.
Chief Collins is so unhappy, he won't accept money collected from that gun auction in Frankfurt. So you made a conscientious decision not to get a grant from the sale of the weapons.
That's correct.
You must believe in that very strongly.
I do.
But gun dealers have strong beliefs too, even if they didn't want to talk about that on camera.
But I don't really want to do interviews because I don't really like the media, no offense.
And with a strong law and millions of dollars in sales, the sound of the auctioneer here will not likely be silenced anytime soon.
So contact $1,500 number 394.
Kentucky is one of nearly a dozen states that are required to auction criminal weapons. In Indiana, the guns can be auctioned, sold, or destroyed. It's up to the local departments. By the way, Newport's police chief is far from alone in his opposition. The International Association of Chiefs of Police says the guns should be destroyed, not sold. I'm Dwayne Pullman, Local 12 News. While the Reds no longer host baseball's first opening day game, Cincinnati, the city where professional baseball began, continues to get a huge honor.
On opening day, we are America's team. We're still the only team that gets the honor of opening at home.
Some fans say that gives Cincinnati something even bigger, the competitive edge of playing here in front of the home crowd. But is there such a thing as a home field advantage in baseball? Straight off the top, Reds team historian Greg Rhodes confirms there is an advantage to playing at home. Is there a home field advantage?
Yes, there is a home field advantage.
But he quickly adds,
but it's not perhaps as big as you might think it is.
The Society for American Baseball Research studied wins and losses at home for all teams in Major League Baseball for more than a century, from 1901 to 2009, and found the real home field advantage is just 54%. When Sabre drilled down, examining wins at home versus wins on the road for all teams in 5 seasons from 2004 to 2008, Tampa Bay came in first, winning at home more than 17% more than on the road. The Philadelphia Phillies had the lowest percentage, with under 2% more wins at home. The Reds were in the middle, winning slightly more than 9% more of their games here at Great American Ballpark. Despite the fluctuations, the average for home field wins in every decade for all major league teams continues to hover around 54%.
So the home field advantage will sort of even out across a season, across all teams.
The reason the home field advantage is so low, Rhodes says, has more to do with the players than the venue.
I think that how good a team you are will have more impact on whether you win or lose and whether you're at home or on the road, yes.
And opening day is no exception. The Reds are tied with the Tigers for the most consecutive opening day wins in baseball, with 9 in a row from 1983 to 1991. But despite all the parades, parties, and history and home field advantage, the Reds actually have a losing record on opening day. From League Park and Crosley Field to Great American Ballpark, there's only one exception: Riverfront Stadium, the storied home of the Big Red Machine, where from 1971 to 2002, the Reds had an opening day record of 19 wins, 11 losses, and 1 tie. In baseball, it's all about the stats. So if you said there is a home field advantage, you're right. But as the numbers clearly show, that advantage is not as big as many people believe. I'm Dwayne Pullman. From Louisiana,
the results thus far are pretty impressive,
to Long Island.
I would say I'm encouraged that, hyperbaric oxygen could be a benefit.
And more than a dozen other hospitals across the U.S., early studies are revealing hyperbaric oxygen therapy, or HBOT, is saving the lives of critically ill COVID-19 patients. Is HBOT working for COVID-19 patients?
Yes, it appears to be.
Dr. Paul Harch, the director of hyperbaric medicine at LSU in New Orleans, founded HBOT.com. In the early days of COVID-19, Dr. Harch worked with Chinese doctors who published this study, revealing HBOT helped dozens of COVID-19 patients avoid ventilators and recover from the virus.
The science is there to argue for hyperbaric oxygen for coronavirus.
But the Food and Drug Administration continues to warn against using HBOT for anything other than 14 approved conditions, ranging from treating decompression sickness to healing burns and other wounds. The reason? FDA scientists say there's a lack of rigorous studies proving HBOT works as a treatment for other conditions. At New York University Langone Health,
our hope is that through doing this in a rigorous way, we can try to overcome sort of the stigma around hyperbaric therapy.
2 doctors teamed up to conduct a rigorous case control study comparing coronavirus patients who received HBOT in these chambers at NYU Winthrop Hospital with patients who did not. The results are under review for publication, but what they found is stunning. Of 60 patients who did not receive HBOT, 30, or half, needed to be placed on ventilators. 13 died. That's a mortality rate of 22%. Meanwhile, 20 patients did receive HBOT. Only 2 of them were placed on ventilators, and 2 died. Still tragic, but a much lower mortality rate of 10%.
It's small numbers, but the findings suggest that hyperbaric oxygen therapy could reduce the mortality of this disease by half.
As a layman who's not a scientist, that seems to me, I'd look at it and say, wow, that worked.
While these results are promising, what it really means is that we need to do a larger trial.
But a big study will take time and cost big money. A tough sell for a treatment that isn't a drug.
Getting funding for these types of trials is difficult because there's no big pharmaceutical company that has a large profit, and that's just the way the world is right now.
Hey, look, if other people are doing it, let's collect more data.
Dr. Thomas Serena, founder and medical director of a company that specializes in wound care and HBOT, is collecting that data from doctors across the country who are using HBOT on COVID-19 patients. Already, he's seeing a remarkable recovery rate. How often does it work?
It seems to work in the 80%, 90% range.
Yet the goal of getting more COVID-19 patients into these hyperbaric chambers remains elusive.
So many doctors, I believe, are not even aware of it.
As science tries to catch up.
What if we find out that hyperbarics works?
And the pandemic continues to rage.
We've never seen anything like this before.
I'm Dwayne Pullman, Local 12 News.
1546, check over.
When troopers, deputies, and officers make a stop,
okay, do you have your license, registration, proof of insurance on you?
running a background check on the computer,
looking up people's information, verifying people's information,
1039, go ahead.
is key to catching criminals.
Pretty much everything that we do comes from this tool right here.
And keeping us all safe.
All right, you're all set. Drive safe.
But this only works if arrest warrants are sent to LEADS, Ohio's law enforcement automated data system, and NCIC, the National Criminal Information Center. And right now, a stunning number of wanted fugitives from Ohio are missing from these systems.
But as we sit here today, felons wanted for as serious of crimes as murder, rape, domestic violence may not be entered into the system.
Oh, it's not just may not. We know many of them are not being entered into the system.
Ohio Governor Mike DeWine was so disturbed by reports of missing warrants, he formed a task force headed by former Clark County prosecutor Andy Wilson.
What shocked me was the fact that these warrants for violent offenses weren't being put in the system.
Even more stunning, the actual numbers of missing warrants the task force uncovered. Of 217,052 warrants for arrest issued in Ohio, the task force found only 18,117 were actually entered into NCIC. That's just 8%.
I had no idea how big the problem was.
Even worse, the missing warrants included hundreds wanted for some of the most violent crimes, including 696 for aggravated assault, 358 for sex crimes, and 15 warrants for murder, all missing from the system.
I think the public would be shocked to know that someone can be charged with a serious crime, a rape, a murder, and that warrant is not put into a national database. And that happens.
Boiled down, the missing warrants mean wanted fugitives are invisible when they cross state lines. In 2014, the Ohio State Highway Patrol issued a warrant to arrest 39-year-old Daniel Silke for felonious assault and resisting arrest. But that warrant was never sent to NCIC. When Silke moved to Michigan, he avoided capture for 5 years, even though officers there arrested him twice and searched his records on NCIC 55 times. Silke was finally caught 3 months ago near Toledo when Ohio deputies searched LEADS and found that warrant for his arrest.
You think everybody's looking for this guy and is going to protect you, and you find out when he can cross over a county line, he is now in safe haven and no one can get at him. That's a shocking thing.
The problem? Ohio has 1,076 police agencies and no uniform policy about which warrants to enter. So the governor's task force is recommending that 28 types of warrants involving the most serious crimes must be entered in LEADS and NCIC within 2 days.
They got to do it quickly, within 48 hours.
With that and more than a dozen other recommendations, the governor says he can fix this broken system, but he needs help.
We have started to fix the system. I'm on that. I need the help from the legislature to change the law.
That needs to be corrected.
Ohio Speaker of the House, Larry Householder, agrees with the governor and even wants the warrants entered quicker, within 24 hours. But the Speaker insists mistakes and arrests without convictions must be removed from the system just as quickly.
It would have to be entered within 24 hours.